It's a Wednesday afternoon, and we are absolutely live right here on Reier on YouTube. It is No Sleep Teal. Travis Reier joined by Evan Reier, a rejoiner of sorts. Evan, we have the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine in our wake. Let's start right there. I want to get a consumption report from you where the combine is concerned. How much time did you spend consuming the Underwear Olympics?
I did not get to spend all that much time. I was mostly looking at highlights and kind of takes from people that were able to spend their time watching the combine, but due to various reasons like work, whatever, I didn't get to watch a whole lot. But it does seem like there was some notable stories. I mean, obviously, you think about some of those 40-yard dash times. What's his name with the tears and stuff? That was cute. But no, I didn't really get to watch much at all. It's kind of I don't know, a rough time for me to be able to tune in right now.
It's really kind of an X follow, isn't it? That's what it is for me. I can't sit there for hours on hours and watch one guy after another run the 40. I like the newsy stuff, if there is any that comes out of the combine. A lot of the most important stuff we don't have privy to sort of see, and that's the medical stuff.
Well, and the thing is, too, is that the Jaguars don't take that combine very seriously.
I mean who was there?
They didn't send Cohen. They didn't send
Jacksonville up there.
They, just like last year, they are not doing any top 30 visits. So, I mean, they just don't. I respect it. I mean, they just don't look at the combine as like this, otherworldly event where you're going to discover something that you don't already know. So I appreciate that. I mean, of course, at the end of the day, you want to get the measures for all the athleticism and different stuff like that. But you can look at all that stuff in a spreadsheet. You don't have
pro days coming up.
Pro days. You've got plenty of opportunities to get to know these guys. And honestly, for a lot of the guys that the Jaguars probably really want, they've been known that they already know what they need to know about these guys. You know what I mean?
They like the tape.
Yeah, they've already seen the tape. They've already probably chatted with these dudes, in some form or fashion, whether it's through their coaches or whatever. But I think the combine is kind of maybe we talk about how the NFL is a year-round product. The combine's probably the most boring part of it. Just to be honest,
it seems to be getting more that way. And if you're also a college football hardo like we are. And we've seen Ty Simpson throw plenty.
Right.
We've seen Carson Beck throw a ton over the last 5 or 6, whatever years it's been. So that isn't necessarily captivating content, but you're right. And the NFL, as we've talked about before, they do a nice job of sort of staggering these mile markers from the end of the season and now into the draft process. But hey, we also have the tag situation.
Jags not.
No tag Jags, we'll call them. And then we're going to crank up free agency here in less than a week.
Yeah, no, that's when the fireworks will really start popping off right now. Granted, that might be for the rest of the NFL because the Jaguars are not rich. They are not rich right now. So we're going to have to see. But this is kind of, your last chance to throw a tag out there. If you've got any last second trades you might need to make before people are, officially released. This is a pretty fun week for that. But as far as the Jaguars are concerned, I don't see much happening this week. I don't see them tagging anybody, and I don't really see them making a trade unless it's kind of for like a smaller piece that they, anticipate, kind of either competing for like a backup job or something like that. But, something like small value. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of, big moves this week.
Quentin Morris, the tight end, who ended up playing a big role for this offense down the stretch of the 2025 season. I like that. 1-year deal, $3 million?
Yeah, I think he's earned it. I'm stoked for Quentin Morris. I mean, really, he showed up in ways when Brenton Strange was out. He showed that, he does have, some type of offensive kind of, downfield capability. But then simultaneously, what Quentin Morris does is he blocks the crap out of people. And that's chef's kiss. That's what you're looking for from TE number 2. So I did like that deal. I feel like that's the kind of thing that, just getting those little pieces squared away is, it's not the most important thing, but that adds up. We talked about last year about how the depth of the roster was better than we have seen, in years. And how maintain that is by keeping those guys around.
Yeah, and as far as guys hitting the open market, no surprise, Devin Lloyd,
Yeah.
Travis Etienne, Monteric Brown. If is there any chance, in your opinion, or of those three? Let's just look at those three for now. Is it Brown that would be the very most likely that the Jags would be able to keep around as compared to what ETN might command on the market after a really good 2025? And obviously the same thing for Devin Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monteric Brown is the most likely to come back to Jacksonville. I just think that while he did have a really solid year, I don't think his market is quite what's out there like it is with Devin Lloyd and ETN. I mean, primarily just because while the corner, I guess the arsenal of corners available across the NFL is not exactly mind blowing right now either. The lack of options at linebacker make Devin Lloyd such a primo free agent this offseason. He could not have timed it out better himself in terms of entering the market. And then with Travis Etienne, it's kind of the same deal. There are some running backs out there, but really, I mean, I would say Etienne and Kenneth Walker are kind of your number one running backs available in the free agency market. And at this point, I don't know why the Jags would have waited to this point to tag them. So I'm not expecting any of those guys to get tagged. And honestly, I'm not expecting any of them to be able to sign with the Jags in free agency either, just because at the end of the day, other teams have more money. They just have more space, more money. They can outbid the Jags if they, so choose. The Jags are kind of going to have to get lucky to retain maybe any of the three, but definitely ETN and Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, that looks to be big ticket items. I'll tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like David Montgomery landing with the Houston Texans. I didn't like that.
That would have been a good fit for us. That would have been a nice off speed to Tootin. That
felt like the Texans saying, okay, we weren't able to really mash it last year with the run game, but that's what we're going to do because that's Montgomery's forte. I mean, Gibbs is the speed guy, has been the speed guy. The dynamic guy has evolved into more and more of an every down option up there in Detroit. But Montgomery looks like a nice fit for the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to, see him. But at the same time, I mean, Texans still have questions on that offensive line. So,
They do.
As good as Montgomery is, he's also getting older. If you can't block for him, he's not a guy that's going to be able to make something happen on his own.
Not going to create. Yep.
Yeah, but no, that's a statement move for sure. I mean, really, it might be the only statement move in the division so far. I mean, really, the South has been kind of quiet. Like all four teams.
It has. I think if you put Montgomery with Woody Marks, that's
a really good
nice combination. 1-2 punch, which leads us back to the Jags without ETN.
Yeah. Who do you go for?
What do you envision there? I mean, obviously Tootin is a guy that there's high expectations for. I think a lot of this stuff that we're going to see in terms of free agency and what's coming up and maybe cap casualties from this roster for the Jags going to be dependent upon guys they drafted last year, at the safety position, for example, or running back. Some of those spots are going to show up big, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about Bashal Tootin, you think about Caleb Ransall. That was a name that we kind of were excited for, coming into this past season. It just, due to, I think, some injuries coming up to the regular season and different stuff, it never really panned out. But Caleb Ransall's exciting. They're going to at the end of the day, you don't know if you nailed it in a draft until you don't even know the next year, really. I mean, really, we still need another year or two before we can properly grade, Gladstone's first draft. But this next year will tell us a lot on if, his hit rate is as good as we thought it might be after his time in Los Angeles. In terms of, those other options outside of running back, I don't know, but there are, quite a few names out there. I just worry about, guys that are actually a proper fit because while I like LaQuint Allen and Bashal Tootin as a 1-2, you got to have one more guy. You got to, I just don't look at that as a, premium NFL rushing attack, even as good as we think Tootin might be. You got to have a little bit more than that. So
at least going into the season,
Yeah.
Which kind of takes us back to some guys entering the final year of their rookie deals. I mean, talk
Right.
about Trayvon Walker. You talk about Brenton Strange, Parker
Yep. Parker
Washington,
Washington.
Antonio Johnson, your guy, put himself in position. What do you anticipate there with the quartet like Walker, Strange, Washington, and Johnson?
I anticipate not signing all of them, unfortunately.
Or extending them at least. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
And
extending.
that's where the franchise could come into play next year, right?
Right.
As far as the
Franchise tag next year is going to have serious value for the Jags. This year, I just, lack of money, lack of, I guess at this point in time, it just doesn't really make sense. But next year, I could definitely see, you think about, how the franchise tag works, right? Where each position gets a different minimum salary when they get tagged. Well, when you look at Trayvon Walker, who plays technically as a DE, maybe they can get him as a linebacker. Either way, that's going to be 20 to 25 million. Parker Washington at receiver, that's also going to be 20, 25 million. Antonio Johnson and Brenton Strange are the guys that you're thinking about free agent tagging next year, because those positions are worth less, at least in the NFL's kind of layout that they have for the free franchise tag. So what that means to me is that you need to find extensions for Trayvon Walker and Parker Washington. And then you go extend one of the other two guys, and then you probably have to let the other one walk, unless you kind of get, I don't know, like we got to see if Antonio Johnson, if that was like a upturn for good, or if that was kind of just a really fortunate season. So maybe you're able to import Antonio Johnson if he kind of cools down next year, but you don't really want him to cool down either. You want him to play as well as he can. So, when I think about
he kind of had the Devin Lloyd year a year earlier,
right?
Devin had it in a contract year,
right?
Straight up.
Yeah. No, I would say at least two of those interceptions were kind of, punts. It was an awesome year for him. It was really dope. He did make some big plays, but
you're right.
Hey,
how much trust do you have in that moving forward? If you're going to
talk
about
coming into the year, we had no
type of thing, right?
Coming into the year, it was like, oh, geez.
And depending on what you do with Eric Murray, and Dewey, if he's gone,
well, I think Dewey's gone for sure.
But your safety position.
Yeah, I think Antonio
Johnson every down at safety.
Antonio Johnson, Eric Murray, and Caleb Ransall is kind of your first three. You're going to go have another guy or two in there, but maybe even some weirdness with, how much they like flipping nickel corners in and out. We could see Jarian Jones. We could see potentially even Jordan Lewis if he comes back, whatever. There's a bunch of different random stuff that they could do for that fourth safety spot. But you really only have three right now. But I think if we see any extensions this season, talking about like the subject at hand, it's got to be Walker and Washington. It'd be expensive, but if you can get it done now before the quote unquote contract year, I think that's going to end up saving you a lot of money and give you the chance of retaining 3 of 4, maybe even all 4 of these names mentioned. So,
which leads us into some other guys on this roster moving forward: Devon Hamilton, Eric Armstead. What are you sort of projecting there in terms of their future viability? Do you at least check under the hood to see if there's maybe a restructuring that you can do, or a team friendly type of route with those kind of guys? They need to add, I would say, first and foremost, defensively, more pass rush. They're not having to bring extra guys to get it done.
Yeah, very few coaches can, win successfully by blitzing, over half the time. Todd Bowles is kind of maybe the only example. I think you absolutely want to get one more like actual pass rushing focused guy. But obviously, you're not thinking edges; you're thinking interior. A name that was brought up earlier this week was Jordan Davis. That would be a really fun one. Might not actually pan out because there's plenty of question marks surrounding that guy. But, if you think about like a dude in the center that not only is a great pass rusher, but can also just kind of cause messes, when it comes to interior running games, that would be a nice pick. Now, granted, it's just so difficult to figure out what the Jags are going to do when they're as broke as they are. We're not talking about like we have a little bit amount of money. We're talking about $16 million over the salary cap limit. Now, like you said, you think about restructuring. I mean, there's maybe a few different dudes out there that you can potentially do that with. But if you go look on Spot Track and you go look up like the top contracts, salary cap hits that the Jaguars have, a lot of these deals have, we're talking $10 to $15 million in dead cap. This isn't money that you can restructure and regain.
Right.
This
Right.
is money that is spent.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing is like, I just, they can find spots. They might be able to go get 3 or 4 million here or there, but there might have to be something kind of crazy that we don't know about yet that's coming, like a trade or, a release that we're not anticipating,
like a Walker Little. I mean, that's not
Walker
gonna.
Little comes to mind. I mean,
Yeah.
you just signed Cole Van Lannon to another big deal. Like, I mean, how
What do you
much
do
money?
with Ezra Cleveland?
Ezra Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the problem though. Is like
I like him though. I like Ezra.
I like Ezra Cleveland too. If we're getting rid of anybody, at least of the kind of key names on the offensive line, I think Walker Little probably makes the most sense. But the thing is like 2026 salary guaranteed, 2027 salary not guaranteed for Walker Little. So if they did want to trade him, they are still like, even if they got rid of him, they're still locked into a bunch of money this year. You know what I mean? So there's also, I mean, they would be able to get out of the bonuses, basically. They would be able to save like $2 million. So, but that's, again, you're only $14 million over the cap now. So, I mean, I'm not the best at knowing exactly how this all works, but I did a lot of research on it. And at the end of the day, if the dead cat number is high, you're in trouble. Like you're generally.
And even if you do deal a Brian Thomas Jr., he's still on a rookie deal. I mean, it's not monumental savings, right? And that's a guy. Do you think that's legitimately worth monitoring in terms of his presence with this club, even going into 2026? Are you totally convinced he'll be a Jag come September?
I don't know, man. It's going to be a toss-up. I mean, I don't know. What are you feeling? I mean, honest to God, I have to me, if you,
I think it's all about if you get somebody that kind of just goes crazy,
right? Yeah. If you
offers
find
you enough to go there. I don't think at this point, I think it kind of goes back to Travis, Travis Hunter and his situation. Now, you feel really good about Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers, obviously.
Right.
Still need a legit third guy, though. So I still think Brian Thomas Jr. can give you that at that position. And then that frees you up to be more of a corner sort of approach with Travis Hunter within doing some of the situational stuff with him, maybe at wide receiver.
What I think the Jags are hoping for, what Gladstone's hoping for is, at the end of the day, Brian Thomas Jr., it's not that long ago that he was drafted, right? There's still a lot of super, high draft stock 2 years ago. Obviously, this past year fell off. I would say that Gladstone and crew are hoping that somebody still sees whatever was seen in that draft a couple years
ago. The Jags take a second for Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
I am like, if you throw a second and maybe a sixth, I think you have to accept that deal. I personally think that that's a must. Just because right now with his current stock, I mean, we never can know for sure, right? But I mean, I would assume teams wouldn't pay more than like maybe a couple fourths, a couple maybe a couple thirds, If someone's willing to give you a pick in the top 50 for Brian Thomas Jr. right now, I think you have to take it. I think
it's in large part because I think other clubs have that same concern that a lot of people have at this point in his career. Not so much that he's had struggles, but there have been times where engagement just seemed to be a real issue for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah. I mean, last year there was some tumultuous off the field stuff. I think I've mentioned, and a lot of people have mentioned that BTJ lost a close childhood friend right before the season started. Obviously, they took Travis Hunter. You got to wonder if that ever made him feel some type of way, like when, you already have a number one receiver and then you go in for that. So there's stuff that we know he was dealing with, and there's stuff that we still have no idea. I don't know, man. We have no idea on one, what the interest is like out there, and also at BTJ, what he wants really. Like, I mean, he's a pretty quiet guy. It's not like he's been doing interviews. It's not like he's been doing any of that stuff. So, it might, if he's still got the fire, if he's still got the juice, if last year was an anomaly rather than the norm, then the Jaguars are going to be sitting really pretty. But it's for it being March already, it feels like the Jaguars know way less than you typically would going into the rest of the offseason.
I'm more inclined for BTJ to hang around right now.
Yeah.
Because of the presence of Jakobi Meyers. I think a lot of people would look at that and say, well, you got Jakobi Meyers. You don't need Brian Thomas Jr.
Right.
I like Jakobi Meyers for a multitude of reasons. One of them being perhaps there can be some osmosis from Jakobi Meyers to a young receiver like Brian Thomas Jr. I said that when Jakobi was acquired via the trade during the season. As much as anything, I hoped, he would bring a presence in that room that would impact a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. in a positive way.
Yeah, I think in some ways you did see it happen. I mean, BTJ definitely
got better.
Yeah, BTJ's last 8 games, I would say, were significantly far better than the first 10,
And the 4 was pretty low, so I kind of had to. But your point is good.
But no, he woke up a little bit. At that point, you had to wonder, okay, BTJ is performing well enough at this point, but he's not getting the targets that he was getting, before Jakobi Meyers, before Parker Washington's kind of ascension this past year. So, who's to say? I mean, maybe the Jaguars were seeing more than we did just because we didn't really see BTJ get the same amount of opportunities. But ideally, I mean, I would love to keep BTJ. If there's not an offer that you have to accept, then absolutely don't just sell him off just because.
I don't think they're going to fire sale him at all.
No, I don't think so either. But he's just at the end, he's still, even with, let's say Travis Hunter still plays some offensive snaps, like, only 5 or 10 a game, but he provides something there. And even if Jakobi Meyers is still great and Parker Washington's still great, BTJ still has, I would say, a gear that none of those other receivers have.
He's got number one attributes. Yeah,
he's got speed, he's got length, he's got stuff that those guys just don't have. So if you can tap into those again, it'd be huge.
He is Jimmy Smith to Jacoby's Keenan McCardle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then to have another guy like Parker. I mean, come on.
Who was we didn't have a third receiver like that back in the day. Who was
I'm trying to think of who that third receiver was all those years ago. Yeah, I'm struggling. You had James Little Man Stewart that could run the rock pretty well. I remember Natrone Means.
Yeah, Natrone
at the running
Means
back
was the dude.
position. Yeah. But at this point, I don't see just moving on from BTJ.
I don't either. Someone's got to give you a crazy deal. And it might be
top 50 pick. Okay. Because you don't have a first this year. So
well, and the thing is too, is like, that means that if a trade's going to happen with BTJ, theoretically it should only happen before like the second round of the NFL draft. If he's getting traded after that, then you're probably getting resources for the next year, which is not bad, but not ideal, I would say. But yeah, I mean, we'd love to have BTJ ball out, because if you can have those 3 receivers and Brent Strange, and then maybe you go get Kenneth Walker and you have the best offense in the NFL. Am I right, fellas? Come on.
Oh man, Kenneth Walker can run that rock.
Yeah, David Montgomery might ask if we go sign Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, that's a statement to the Texans. That's nice pickup. But we got K-Dub.
Yeah, we're like we said.
So give me the wish list heading into free agency before we get out of here today.
Yeah.
And it could just be positional. It doesn't have to be specific players, but give me maybe that 3-item wish list that you have from a position standpoint as we head into all this.
Okay. So I'm gonna actually work defense to offense.
Okay.
Defensive line, I want two guys. I want two veteran guys, preferably a starter. To both at defensive tackle. Sorry, I forgot to say that. But I want another depth guy, and I want a guy to replace Devon Hamilton. I like Devon Hamilton. It's been awesome to have him here. That's clearly the weakest link on that line. At linebacker, I think you got to go get. I think you got to get another veteran. Like I don't think you
Off
can
the
replace.
ball.
You
Yeah.
get who can play on the ball. There's a few different dudes that are going to be available, but I just there's not a lot of young talent, right? And there
Mhm.
often isn't at the linebacker position when you're thinking about free agency. So a veteran of some kind, just to kind of at least have that presence in the locker room. Because if you're going to go with Ventrell Miller next year, you at least need to have somebody behind him. Um, at least one corner, probably two. Kind of depends on Monteric Brown, but if you sign Monteric Brown, then you need to sign at least one more corner. If you don't, then yeah.
So if you bring back Buster and you play Trav at corner, and
Yeah.
then you got Jarian Jones, that's not a bad three, but you want another proven type of guy in
Right.
that mix.
I think the Jordan Lewis experiment worked out so well that I would like to try it again. Now, I don't think there's another Jordan Lewis out there because at the end of the day, remember, you made him the highest paid nickel corner ever. I mean, he's, extremely, difficult to find that kind of quality, but I would love a similar type of move.
Right.
The Jaguars kind of did pretty well when they went and picked up various veterans last offseason. So I just think you need a body in there at the very least. Moving to offense real quick, replacement for Travis Etienne. Doesn't necessarily have to be, an out and out starter like Kenneth Walker, but I think about maybe even a Rashad White, maybe even a Kenneth Gainwell. Those guys are kind of similar to what Tootin can provide, but Rashad White, I think, would actually make a ton of sense. He'd probably sign on, a pretty cheap deal. His stock has dropped a little bit, and he probably wants to pair back up with Liam Cohen.
What about the Aaron Jones hype or the internet lust
I
for
don't,
Aaron Jones?
I just don't see Aaron Jones being all that effective.
Still
I
got the
mean,
juice?
I think if, David Montgomery's still got a year or two left, right? Like, I think
Mhm.
David Montgomery's still got a year or two in
Peak
him.
years. Yeah.
I don't think Aaron Jones has any peak years left. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just me. I'm not really sold on him as an option because I also don't think that would be. I think they could go get Aaron Jones for cheaper from other areas in this
So he's
free agency class.
down a tier for you
Yeah,
from the guys that you're looking at.
right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like I said, Rashad White would kind of be my ideal one if you're not getting Kenneth Walker. That would kind
Gotcha.
of be my ideal pick. And then really offensively, other than that, probably just I don't know. Probably you got to. It's the offensive line is always a constant cycle. So
Mhm.
maybe go grab one more veteran for that, especially if you anticipate, like we were talking about, trading Walker Little. That kind of depends on that too. If they do move somebody, Walker Little feels like a prime candidate to trade. They trade him,
McCarty.
then I think you got to
Yeah.
go reload in free agency.
Gotcha.
What about you? Any other name? Any
No,
other
no,
spots?
I'm good, man.
Yeah,
I'm just excited to see where this takes us in the
yeah, me
next
too.
couple of weeks, and we'll be
Should.
back right here on No Sleep Teal to talk about it. Take us out, Ev. Anything else before we check on out on a Wednesday afternoon?
Not a whole lot.
Birthday coming up
Yeah, 30th
for our guy
birthday
Ev.
is
The
in a
big
matter
three
of days.
zero coming up
I know.
Saturday.
It's a weird one. Enjoying the last few days of my 20s, I guess. I I am it's kind of funny to say it like this, but I am now beginning my training for my birthday this weekend.
Oh,
The past 50 days, I have not had a sip of alcohol, which I'm
oh,
very, very pleased about. However, I do want to drink this weekend. So I believe today we're going to have a couple beers
okay.
to warm
Couple of
myself
small
back up
beers. Couple of
for
small
a
beers.
few small beers
Few
to
small
warm
beers.
myself back up
Yeah.
before things get hazy this weekend. So,
Hazy
I'm really
IPA.
looking forward to it. Y'all are coming up.
Yeah.
It should be fun. Nothing crazy planned. Just spending time with people I care about and people I like. So I'm looking forward to it.
in the ham.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
no ham like
Magic City.
Birmingham. The Magic
That's
City. Come and
yeah.
get it. All
Yeah.
right. Look forward to it, Ev. We'll be there soon, and we'll catch up with you right here on No Sleep Teal in the very near future as well. Thanks again for tuning in to No Sleep Teal here on Reier on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel as of yet. We're going to have Second Helping, our SEC show, live tomorrow on Thursday right here on Reier on YouTube. But for now, for Evan Reier, I'm Travis Reier. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, so long, everybody.